My name is Kelly Duncan, and I'm in real estate here in Gallatin County. And I am here today speaking with Montana Shed Center. So with me, my husband and I have had our own construction company since probably 2001-ish. And then I've been in real estate since 2003. So when we started looking for essentially maybe a tiny home or a cabin, I wasn't necessarily thinking ADU. But my younger son wanted to get out of Belgrade, and so we were trying to find something that we could put on a little piece of property that my dad has, and so we started exploring all sorts of options. I went to Montana Shed Center because we had bought I'm going to call it a sleeping cabin. It wasn't an ADU, but it was just a little cabin, and so I went back to their website. At that time, they had added the ADUs. So I looked at those and thought, wow, that would be a pretty good option, you know, so I explored that, called them. At that point, they were only offering one, and it was, I think, 400 square feet. It was pretty small. And so I visited with them, and we kind of went back and forth, and they were hoping to offer a bigger option down the road. And so we weren't in a hurry, and so we kind of ended the conversation and kind of like, well, I'll touch base. I'm gonna, you know, kind of keep looking at different things. So we looked and didn't really find anything, and then I circled back around, and at that point, they had offered or added a bigger ADU. And so I called, talked to Matt, and that's kind of when things took off. And being somewhat with a building background, my husband and I had kind of tossed around the numbers, and he said he couldn't build it for the same price that we could buy it from Montana Shed Center. He just couldn't do it. The two of us have been in the industry a long time, and when you've been around it as much as we have, you learn to look for quality, you learn what is quality. So that background helped us because we weren't going to buy something that didn't A, meet our standards, and B, wasn't gonna hold up down the road, because long-term we were looking at probably renting this out as an additional dwelling unit or as a long-term rental, Airbnb, that kind of thing. So that was also the ulterior motive. We wanted something that was well-built and was gonna stick around, and that we would be able to do that with. And so looking at the quality, looking at the finishes, looking at the exterior, all of those things, Montana Shed Center just nailed it for us. Again, you know, with Wade building and being in all aspects of construction, you know, we went over it with a fine-tooth comb. And Matt, God bless Matt, he probably got so sick of me and my questions and my, you know, everything, because every day it was, hey, what about this? Or hey, what about, or can we do this? Can we add that? You know, what about doing this? And he probably was like, oh goodness, lady. But he was great, and, you know, answered all the questions and always had an answer for me. That was the other thing, you know, you can talk to people and ask them a question and they're like, I don't know. I don't know if that's, and Matt, that was never an I don't know. It was, let me find out, and yes, you know, we'll make it happen kind of a thing. And that's, you know, so I never had a question in the back of my mind about, is this gonna be a great build and this opportunity, because I knew he was gonna come through with it. There was never a question in my mind of whether it was going to turn out or wasn't going to turn out. I knew it was. So it was a great experience all the way around working with them. The delivery and setup process was amazing. I had my doubts, just because, not my doubts that they couldn't do it. I had my doubts because in my mind, I couldn't figure out how they were going to do it. You know, it's crazy to watch these things come in on that truck, and how unless you see it in person, you probably can't quite wrap your head around it. But when I watched them pull off the highway and get to the driveway, and that trailer moved and they made that corner, and he brought it in here, and the way they literally just backed it on the slab and down to whatever, it was crazy. But it was seamless, and it was absolutely went off without a hitch. I don't even know if it took an hour, start to finish. It was quick. They did a great job, and the house arrived in mint condition. You know, we walked in, there weren't any cracks in the wall, which happens when you transport things. It just happens. But it was the way they secured the house, the windows, the doors, the walls, everything. I mean, it was just, you couldn't have asked for a better delivery. I would say if you're on the fence about buying from Montana Shed Center, just really talk to them. They will alleviate any concerns you have. I don't think that you will go wrong ordering, whether it's an ADU or a cabin or a shell and you finishing it. I don't think you can go wrong with them. But my biggest advice would be just sit down and ask the questions. They will answer them. They will put all your fears to ease if you have any. But I would say get off the fence and just stick with Montana Shed Center because they did a great job.